All right, everybody, welcome back. Adjust this microphone here a little bit. We got news today. We got 4-LOM or Darkside C3PO, essentially. And that's what they're going with. They want a Darkside version of C3PO for the bounty hunters, essentially. So this just dropped about 15 minutes ago. We're gonna go ahead and jump into this and do this kit reveal. I'm a little bit excited for this, mostly because I know there's a 98% chance that I'm gonna relic 9 4-LOM here along with Zuckuss for this air battle that's coming out with them, the analysis paralysis air battle. I know not everybody's gonna be able to do that, but I think you're still gonna get some sizable upgrades here for all your bounty hunters that you used to get Jabba, or your bounty hunters that you used to get Executor, that type of thing. So let's go ahead and jump into what 4-LOM is all about. So Darkside, obviously we kind of knew that was going to be happening. Support, leader, bounty hunter, droid, scoundrel. That's a lot of tags. There's a lot of scoundrel synergy. There's more and more droids, so he's probably going to fit in somewhere on the off chance that you run a droid comp, kind of like IG-88 is. But I really think he's definitely going to be mostly geared towards being a bounty hunter. Lots of bounty hunter synergy here, and we'll go ahead and see that. So key attributes: new debuff, corrupted translation, see C3PO counterpart, stacks up to 3 times and enables powerful lockdown effects like ability block and such. Inflicts a variety of other debuffs as well with his abilities. Synergizes with assist heavy Darkside bounty hunters, especially Zuckuss. Okay, that was a given, right? They kind of work together. So for their inspiration, 4-LOM, the protocol droid turned bounty hunter, was known as for his calculating nature and ability to interface with computer systems, which translates into his corrupted translation mechanic, representing electronic warfare capabilities. Some would say because of his cunning and calculating nature, 4-LOM represents a dark mirror version of C3PO, which also worked as a key inspiration for corrupted translation. Him being a strategical partner of Zuckuss, we wanted 4-LOM to have some synergies with Zuckuss directly called out. The electromagnetic weaponry and his special ability Relative Mercy represents his upgraded combat systems from his transition from protocol droid to deadly bounty hunter. Okay, strategy tips: 4-LOM secondary special ability, Translation Destroy, inflicts unavoidable and unresistible corrupted translation debuff, which is the key for success of this team. Being unavoidable and unresistible is going to be pretty big. They're not going to be able to stop that, and he's going to take a lot of turns too. You'll see why in a minute. 4-LOM's contract can be completed by damaging enemies with corrupted translation, and it's going to complete pretty fast too. Use the mass assist from his special 1 Relative Mercy strategically to get the reward quickly and dominate the battlefield. Even though his second special has a high cooldown, it can be reduced with his unique ability Override Programming. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a high cooldown. We'll go ahead and take a look at that Override Programming in a minute. The thing is that we have to keep in mind his leader is only going to be, or his payout contract thing, it's only going to be active while he's the leader, and you might not want him as the leader. We'll get into that a little bit more. Mod recommendations: speed and tenacity. Okay, I think they just don't want him to get dazed because you want him to assist a lot, so that's probably the justification there. How do you unlock 4-LOM? The Marquee event is starting Tuesday, August 12th at 11 a.m. Pacific. So we got about 8 months or so, 10 months in before we can unlock 4-LOM. That's going to be a really long time. I don't know how the meta is going to look like with relic deltas and everything, but you know, August, you have a good time, a good amount of time to prepare. Obviously, this is a typo. They're caught in the past. It's supposed to be October 21st, and if we reload it, it would say October 21st, but I just figured I keep this in here. So, which characters are required for the 4-LOM event? No characters required for 4-LOM event except 4-LOM himself. That's disappointing because we don't have 4-LOM yet, so we can't run the event because we don't have 4-LOM to get 4-LOM. I think they're just being clever, but the implications of such things. Will 4-LOM be required for Zuckuss' event? Yes, but they'll probably provide him. I'm gonna guess they're gonna provide 4-LOM. They're not gonna be like, oh, you didn't do 4-LOM's Marquee event, you're locked out of the Zuckuss event. Hopefully, it'd be a really weird one. So yeah, interesting. Okay, getting into the kit, we got basic destructive rotation. I think there was some problem with the graphics not playing. Yeah, this one's not playing. But anyways, for destructive rotation, deal special damage to target enemy 4 times and inflict with defense down for 1 turn. During 4-LOM's turn, Darkside Bounty Hunter's attacker stealth for 2 turns. This is why it's huge. He's gonna deal damage 4 times every time he uses his basic. He has special damage for what that's worth, but yeah, 4 times every time he does a basic. So if you only need 20 damage instances, that's 5 attacks, and then that's going to count on assists, right? So that contract could go super quick. Darkside Bounty Hunter attackers, this is going to be a common theme, only Darkside Bounty Hunters. But the stealth for 2 turns, that helps them not be targeted for sure. I think Aura Singh might benefit from stealth. I can't remember any other bounty hunters necessarily that get an advantage from that. But time will tell, right? Going into special 1, we have Relative Mercy, cooldown of 4. And then we got Dispel buffs and special damage to target enemy, and deal special damage to target enemy and shock them for 2 turns, which can't be evaded. That's good for removing taunts. If target enemy was stunned, inflict vulnerable on all enemies for 2 turns. Enemies with 3 stacks of corrupted translation are inflicted with ability block for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. That's huge too. Mostly because corrupted translation is unresisted too, so you're gonna stack that up pretty quickly and then ability block everybody, and if the opponent can't do things, then you're in a much better position. Call other non-galactic legend Darkside Bounty Hunter allies, holy tags, non-galactic legend Darkside Bounty Hunter allies, so that's basically everybody but Jabba. That's all the other Darkside Bounty Hunters you could think of except Jabba. They're very worried about him potentially overlapping or breaking Jabba, right? If they were support, they assist again, right? And we'll take a look at the ones that are support later on just to get an idea of who that is. Translation Destroy is the second special. Cooldown of 8. Dispel all debuffs on Bounty Hunter allies and then recover 30% health and protection. Inflict all enemies with a stack of corrupted translation for 3 turns, which can't be copy evaded or resisted. Now, corrupted translation works kind of similar to translation, except it does different things with the more stacks you have, right? Negative effects based on the cumulative number of stacks. 1 is receive true damage whenever they deal a critical hit. So when they attack you and deal a critical hit, they're going to take true damage. They can't defeat themselves. So it's kind of like an Emperor Palpatine type thing, but only for crits. Whenever this character starts their turn, the enemy gains 10% turn meter. So that's going to be a lot of turn meter pumping out to your entire team every time they go. 1 person is only 10%, but 2 persons is 20%. 3 persons is 30% turn meter. You're going to be interrupting their flow quite a bit with this. 3 is minus 30% max health. Galactic Legends and Raid bosses, minus 30% tenacity. So that's going to make them a lot squishier for you to go ahead and take them out ultimately. Now, we got the leader ability cold calculations. Again, time will tell if we're actually going to use this or if we're going to want somebody else, but Bounty Hunter allies have 50% potency and tenacity. That's going to help applying things like defense down, not so much corrupted translation, because it's supposed to be unresistible, right? So what exactly is the potency helping with here? Well, the shock, it can't be evaded, but it can be resisted, and then the vulnerability if they were stunned. But other than that, it's not really helping with the corrupted translation or the ability block from it, right? And it will help the defense down on the first one. So going back down to the leader here, 50%. It also helps the rest of the bounty hunters, obviously. But whenever a bounty hunter ally inflicts a debuff, they recover 5% health. Whenever an enemy critically hits a bounty hunter ally, that ally recovers 10% health and protection. So this could give Bosk a run for his money, given that they're going to be dishing out debuffs and then getting 5% health. And then, so that's kind of similar to Bosk's leadership. And then whenever they get critically hit, it's going to make them a lot more tankier, because every time they crit, they're going to recover all that. You're going to get into that situation where they heal up more than the damage is coming in, potentially. If there are no enemy galactic legends, again, this is another no Jabba synergy, but this isn't no Jabba synergy. This is their new clause that they're putting in with all the new characters. If they're even slightly afraid possibly that something could interact negatively with one of their galactic legends, So this is pretty much just a blanket. We do not want this character to rival Galactic Legends. Understood? Capiche? Got it. All right, whenever an enemy gains bonus turn meter, bounty hunter allies gain 10% offense and potency, max 80%, and 5 speed, max 40 until the end of the encounter. So this stacks up to 8 times, essentially. Enemies gaining bonus turn meter. JMK shuts down bonus turn meter. I don't really know the Galactic Legends. I know Jabba, I think, grants turn meter. I don't think Lord Vader does too much. Could be wrong about that. But yeah, well, I mean, actually, no, excuse me, if there are no enemy Galactic Legends. So this is just gonna be targeting at teams that get to run train effects. So no Imperial Troopers, for instance, no Night Sisters. Well, I mean, it's not gonna completely interrupt him, but it's gonna help. But when 4-LOM is in the leader slot and not the ally slot, the following contract is active. Contract: deal damage with an attack to enemies with corrupted translation 20 times. That's only 5 attacks from 4-LOM, obviously, but other attacks are going to do a lot. You do any AoE and everybody has corrupted translation, bam, that's 5 stacks. You can get this almost immediately after a full salvo. Enemies must be debuffed with corrupted translation before the start of an attack to count progress. Only bounty hunter allies can contribute to the contract. So this is also another reason why you're probably going to want 4-LOM just to be fast as hell. It's kind of that mixture between getting the turn meter and being fast. Usually if a toon gains a lot of turn meter, you don't necessarily need them that fast, but you're going to want him to go first to drop the corrupted translation so that you can then get the contract really quick and loop it, right? The reward is all bounty hunters have their payout activated and all bounty hunter allies have their cooldowns reset and gain 50% potency until the end of battle. So this is kind of what they were talking about a little bit in reducing the cooldowns. As soon as the payout's activated, he's going to reset that. Then you can use that 8 cooldown thing again, right? Translation destroy over again. Then we have his unique, which is the Zeta and the Omicron. 4-LOM has 30% potency. If there are no Galactic Legends, whenever another bounty hunter ally attacks out of turn, 4-LOM assists. So he's going to take a lot of assists. But again, that's no enemies and ally Galactic Legends. So nothing on your side, no Jabba basically, and then no enemies. We don't want him overperforming against any of their sweet Galactic Legends. So, but again, more potency. So it's interesting because it's just a couple things that help there, right? But anyways, nonetheless, whenever 4-LOM attacks an enemy with accuracy down, he reduces his cooldowns by 1. Well, there are a couple accuracy down. I think Cad Bane is number 1. But they also said that Zuckuss is likely to have accuracy down synergy. I think there's something up here, up in the notes. If we go back, just search for Zuckuss. Search what we wanted for him to have synergies with Zuckuss directly called out. Okay, that's the direct one. All right, maybe they don't say anything about Zuckuss having accuracy down. But I think it's probably a safe assumption because I don't think Cad Bane is meant to be here necessarily. He does shoot twice sometimes or shoot multiple times. So it's possible that the point could be to have Cad Bane there. It's going to reduce his cooldowns by a bunch and you could have multiple people playing accuracy down, right? At the start of the battle, if Zuckuss is an ally, there's the direct call outs. All non-Galactic Legend bounty hunter allies, again, do not have Jabba on the team, gain 30% max health and protection. This is going to help them be a little bit tankier, as we saw above too with the recovering health and protection. So it looks like maybe 4-LOM is meant to be the leader here, but it's hard to tell because with bounty hunters, all of them have a leadership, right? And then we have whenever an enemy with corrupted translation has their turn meter manipulated, that's them benefiting or possibly decreasing. 4-LOM gains 25% turn meter once per turn. When an enemy with 3 stacks of corrupted translation ends their turn, 4-LOM gains 50% turn meter. So he gets 25% turn meter from this, 50% turn meter from this potentially when they end their turn. So they get it manipulated 25%, they end their turn 50%. He's just going to be taking a whole lot of turns. Even if we're not reducing his cooldowns, he's going to be reducing them rapidly just by taking a ton of turns. Then he has a TB Omicron, which I don't, this is a weird one. At the start of battle, bounty hunter allies gain 100% offense and max health. Good, they need it, right? Whenever an enemy with 3 stacks of corrupted translation ends their turn, 4-LOM gains an additional 50% turn meter. So they might actually survive due to having 100% max health, right? In order to use the corrupted translation and get those 3 stacks. He gains an additional 50% turn meter, so that's on top of this 50% turn meter. So whenever an enemy with 3 stacks of corrupted translation, he gets 100% turn meter essentially. So he'll be taking bonus turns essentially at the end of every enemy's turn, as long as you're pumping out that corrupted translation. If there were no galactic legend allies at the start of the battle, so again, no Jabba here, but also no anything else, it's just like, what else are you going to want? Whenever a bounty hunter ally starts their turn, they gain bonus protection, 50% stacking for 2 turns. They gain bonus protection, 50% stacking for 2 turns. Okay, so why have no galactic legend synergy in a TB Omicron? This is so silly. Why are we worried about overperformance of a Marquee with a galactic legend in territory battles? This is so dumb. I don't think they needed this. I don't know what they're really concerned about. Also, the galactic legend ally that you'd be using is Jabba, most likely, and Jabba can already solo everything up the middle. So if you're doing only dark side, they're essentially saying we don't want you using Jabba over on the dark side planets. Well, we weren't going to anyway because Jabba has his own mission. There's just not a lot of reasoning here. So I don't know what it is. Maybe they don't want you accidentally using a GL with these dark side tunes because you don't have enough relic 7s or relic 8s or relic 9s to use for the mission, and they want you to turn off your TB Omicron that you invested in. We should not be limiting value on territory battle Omicrons, okay? They're already questionable in terms of the value they provide. We don't need to be limiting that too. Anyways, moving on. Contract 4-LOM's payout, and this is going to be whenever he's with a bounty hunter lead and the payout gets activated. Whenever 4-LOM receives rewards from a contract, he also gains the following payout. Contracts are granted by a certain bounty hunter lead abilities. There we go, I just said that. Payout, 4-LOM gains 100% potency until the end of the battle. He's not inflicting a ton of debuffs, like the defense down, yes, and potentially the shock is essentially what we got. Anyways, whenever 4-LOM uses Translation Destroy, he inflicts an additional 2 stacks of corrupted translation for 3 turns. Okay, so now we're getting to how we're going to get the 3 stacks pretty quickly. We get that 1 stack, right? And then we go ahead and use his leadership ability, corrupted translation, or the contract. We're going to get that super quick because everybody has corrupted translation. Now, whenever he does that again, which his cooldowns got reset, right? Then he's going to go ahead and start doing 3 stacks of corrupted translation every single time he uses that ability. So interesting. You might actually want him as the lead. He provides the tankiness that Bosk kind of would provide there. So I think he might end up being the lead overall, but we'll have to see what Zuckuss brings, right? And whether it's better. It could be a situation where you have multiple different squads based on these bounty hunters and looking at what they do. Let's go ahead and switch over quickly to the game and look at the dark side bounty hunters that we could potentially be using with this guy. Okay, and there's the game. Look at that, just like that. Okay, so Jabba's out, and then we're gonna remove all Hut Cartel. So bye Chrysanthemum, Boosh, maybe Embo potentially could be involved here. It's nice because he has a dispel on basic. So if you're going ahead and let me change that song real quick. If you're using the assisting, the mass assist, right, the basic is going to dispel. That's helpful. And Embo's typically with Jabba in territory wars, not necessarily GAC, so that could change things. Greedo attacks a bunch, but probably not going to be Greedo. There's other ways to do damage to damage corrupted translation people. Zam is mostly thermal detonators. The one good thing about Zam is if you got the Omicron, we're going to speed all that up, right? So that could be huge, at least in 5s. But it looks like they're going to have enough things to kind of have an engine and keep going without that. I think mostly what they're looking at doing here is using one of the dark side bounty hunters, so no Mandalorian Grief Karga, although they do have assist mechanics. Both Grief and Mandalorian call for assists, but it's kind of like the wrong assist. I don't know, I'd still probably want, I wouldn't mind 4-LOM attacking 4 times, but I don't know, I don't think they're gearing towards that. But the problem is you're taking Bosk. Bosk is clearly call everybody to assist. Bosk is your tank. Bosk is your survivalness. So we're definitely going to want Bosk on the team. I just don't see us not wanting Bosk here. And that means Grief Karga and Mandalorian are kind of left out cold. So I think there's possibility for a Bosk, Grief Karga, Mandalorian, 4-LOM, and Zuckuss team. Right? The 2 left over after you do Bosk, Grief Karga, and Mandalorian are kind of ambiguous anyway. So they could be slotting into that team in a way. Alternatively, we're looking at Bosk and then some other people that we would want to call to assist and provide a lot of damage and synergy with that. And that's going to be Boba Fett and Dengar probably, if I had to guess. Maybe IG-88 works here too. We got deal physical damage, and because of all that potency, we're going to get a lot of healing immunity. So definitely a good option. And then they deals damage to all enemies and inflicts ability block. So he inflicts ability block, Boba inflicts ability block, 4-LOM introduces ability block. You could just basically keep them locked down, right? So he's not a bad option here. And because he's doing that AoE, you're getting more stacks of corrupted translation. Well, you're not getting more stacks. You're doing more damage to enemies that have corrupted translation, which gets you 4-LOM's leadership payout quicker, right? So he's a valid option here. When we look at the unique, for the rest of the battle, IG-80 critical hits enemies, reduce their tenacity by 10%. Reducing tenacity is a little bit like increasing your potency. Attacks ignore 50% defense of target locked enemies, and he has 25% offense if the enemy is target locked. So not a lot of synergy with the whole target lock thing, right? And then we look at the uniques. 45% critical damage, recovers 55 health whenever he damages a target locked enemy. 20% offense for each debuffed enemy. We're going to have tons of debuffs, so he's going to get a ton of offense. And then 50% evasion against target locked enemies. And if they are target locked, they can't recover health and protection while IG-88 is active. So that's another kind of big benefit. I definitely see the potential for IG-88. Hold on, there's a second unique that I didn't cover. Oh no, it's the leader that I didn't cover. Never mind. So IG-88, I definitely think is an option. I know Aura Singh here has something to do with stealth. She goes stealth. Let me see real quick. Her basic, if the target was debuffed, gain 20% turn meter, 70% chance to stun the enemy. She gains critical chance up, offense up. If Aura Singh was already stealth, she takes a bonus turn. So the way this would work is 4-LOM on his turn. If he uses his basic, if he uses basic on his turn, or I think is called to assist on his turn, he does the mass assist, then she would get stealth, and then she would take a bonus turn when she uses her special. It's a little bit of synergy. It's not crazy though. So I don't think Aura Singh is going to be the one here, unfortunately. She does get extra critical damage and it's doubled while she's stealth. Defeats an enemy turn, she gets critical chance for the rest of the battle. Ultimately, she's not super strong. More offense, health steal, gains more stealth. Yeah, okay. So unfortunately, I just don't think she's going to be the one here. And then Dengar, let's go ahead and take a look at Dengar. Deal physical damage to target enemy. If the target enemy is suffering from any debuffs, 60% chance to call an ally to assist. This could be good. You don't get control over the ally, but you at least have a chance of calling 4-LOM to assist, and then that's 4 stacks of damage, 4 instances of damage, defense down. So this isn't a crazy one, and there's nothing saying this doesn't trigger off of other things. So 4-LOM calls the mass assist, Dengar assists, then he calls another enemy or another ally to assist. You're getting tons of instances of damage potentially, especially if he calls 4-LOM, to go ahead and get that contract a lot quicker. And then if they're in a scoundrel, the attack is guaranteed to be a critical hit, right? All right, let's look at the special here. Deal physical damage, target enemy with a 75% chance to inflict speed down. If the target had 50% turn meter or more, they're also stunned. So the stunned is interesting because when we go back and look at 4-LOM's kit, there was a stun clause there, right? On the first special, Relative Mercy. If target enemy was stunned, inflict vulnerable on all enemies for 2 turns, right? So possible synergy there, because not a lot of those bounty hunters be stunning. So that's a pretty interesting prospect there. Now let's go ahead and look at the other special. Deal physical damage to all enemies. Damage 2 times to random enemies, dealing 50% less damage. Inflict negative status effects on all enemies that suffered a critical hit. Tenacity down. That could be huge for all the debuffs going out. Damage over time, not too big. Gain stealth, not a big deal. 50% turn meter reduction, which is interesting. Final, apply 1 thermal detonator to a random enemy target for each bounty hunter ally. Okay. Then we go ahead and look at the unique that we got here. Whenever Dengar receives a critical hit, that's interesting because 4-LOM is also calling out receiving critical hits, right? So not only is he going to get stealth for 2 turns, he's also going to get healed up from 4-LOM's leadership. Whenever an enemy evades Dengar's attack, he gains 60% turn meter. We're seeing the other ones gain a bunch of turn meter too. Whenever Dengar suffers a negative status effect, he gains tenacity up for 2 turns. While Dengar is stealth, enemies can't gain stealth. And whenever this ability's effect triggers, he recovers health and protection. 3% health and protection. That's with the Zeta. Not bad. Dengar is a valid option here. It could be Dengar and IG-88. Dengar's payout gains 25% offense, 25% speed. In addition, while he's stealth, he has 60% chance to assist when another bounty hunter ally uses a special ability. Okay, so now let's go back and look at that whole assist pinball that we're doing, right? So while he's stealth, which he gets stealth on 4-LOM's basic, he gets stealth, and then when 4-LOM uses a special ability, he's stealth, so he has a 60% chance to assist. When he assists, he has a 60% chance to call 4-LOM to assist, or any other bounty hunter, right? So there's definitely some synergy here. More assisting is obviously better here. So, and that's what they're going for. They said dark side, heavy assist bounty hunters, right? Well, yeah, we can go ahead and look at Boba Fett. Boba Fett, damage target enemy with a 50% chance to attack again. Each attack has a 70% chance to inflict damage over time for 2 turns. Not crazy synergistic. The attack again could help, potentially. Deal physical damage to all enemies, 80% chance to inflict ability block. I always hate that it's an 80% chance and then we have to deal with the resisting on top of it. More damage over times. Inflictability blocks on the selected target for 2 turns. Okay, more ability block. That is a little bit of synergy. And then we have deal physical damage to target enemy and dispel all buffs and debuffs on them. Deal 30% more. This is a good nuke. However, I don't like that he strips off the corrupted translation. So, I mean, there's not many bounty hunters where we have anti-synergy, but Boba's definitely kind of on the list. You better make sure that he has the right one. Although, to be fair, corrupted translation would count as more debuffs to deal 30% more damage when you dispel it. So that's something to consider. I think a lot of people want Boba mostly because of the Executor 6, right? The whole bounty hunter squad that's hunting down Han Solo. I think it's Han Solo. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look at bounty hunters resolve. Don't want to accidentally apply that. At the start of encounter, whenever he defeats an enemy, he gains bounty hunters resolve. This unit ignores taunts effects during his turn. When defeated, revive at 100% health. Can't be dispelled, prevent, or attacked. Not really any synergy. That's just him staying alive, right? And then his payout gains a bonus turn, and for the rest of the battle has 50% speed and additional defense penetration. So Boba's just like a lone wolf kind of. He doesn't really get a ton of synergy with anybody, let alone this whole 4-LOM thing. So he's kind of nice, but so far I see the most synergy between IG-88 and Dengar with 4-LOM and Zuckuss. And then Bosk is obviously a shoo-in, right? Let's look at Cad Bane real quick because I know there's accuracy down. Chance to attack again, inflict accuracy down on target enemy for 2 turns. Cad Bane gains 15% turn meter for each critical hit. Let's go back over real quick and look at 4-LOM. who's talking about accuracy down here. Let's see, where was it? Was it in his unique? Yeah, whenever 4-LOM attacks an enemy with accuracy down, reduces cooldowns by 1, right? So if Zuckuss doesn't apply accuracy down, this is probably meant to have Cad Bane on the team. I don't know how much you want Cad Bane on the team, because Cad Bane is still Cad Bane. He's not overall a strong tune, but to the effect that he's putting out accuracy down, and then he's assisting a bunch, and then he's gaining a bunch of turn meter for each critical hit, and then he's assisting a bunch because of 4-LOM's mass assist. There's potential here. That's all I'm saying. There's potential. Deal physical damage to target enemy, dispel all buffs on them, and stun them for 1 turn. Okay, now we have another stun. Again, if you are using 4-LOM special, Relative Mercy. Was it Relative Mercy? I think it was. Yeah, Relative Mercy on a stunned individual, then it applies vulnerable to all enemies, right? So far we've only seen like 2 options to stun, Dengar and Cad Bane. Cad Bane's got the accuracy down, the assist, and the stun, or not the assist, the attack again, and the turn meter, and then the stun. In addition, remove 50% turn meter, doubled against Jedi enemies. Removing the turn meter also plays into 4-LOM's kit, right? We go back over here. Whenever turn meter is manipulated, right? Where was it? Down here. Whenever an enemy with corrupted translation has their turn meter manipulated, 4-LOM gains 25% turn meter, right? So a little bit more synergy. And again, maybe he's not meant to have a solid team. Maybe all of these can kind of shoe in and do different things potentially, depending on what other teams you need to run. But it's just kind of interesting to note that Cad Bane is kind of firing on all cylinders in terms of the synergy with him, right? And then if the target enemy is debuffed, which they will be because corrupted translation, remove 25% of their max protection. 4-LOM is also removing 30% of max health on 3 stacks of corrupted translation, right? So they're getting really squishy at this point. Let's go ahead and look at Cad Bane's unique. 30% crit chance, crit damage. When he inflicts a debuff, he recovers 5% max health and protection. That's also what happens with 4-LOM's leadership, essentially. Whenever he scores a critical hit, he has a 50% chance to reduce his cooldowns by 1. Reducing cooldowns, and reducing cooldowns on the stun glove, which is already, I think, a 3-turn cooldown, right? That's not bad. Or stunning more enemies, removing more turn meter, which is manipulating them. So this might be Cad Bane's time to shine. Cad Bane has 25% evasion on his payout. Inflict thermal detonator for 2 turns on attacking enemy when Cad Bane evades. This thermal detonator can't be evaded. Okay, so Cad Bane is a third option between IG-88, Dengar, and Cad Bane, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and look up top here. I don't think Boba, Scion of Django, has synergy. I would like it because I have Relic 9, but let's go ahead and take a look. Deal physical damage to target enemy twice if target enemy has no protection. This ability deals damage 2 more times. That is big for somebody who wants to inflict a bunch of stacks of damage for corrupted translation, right? So that's not terrible. And then calling to assist, dealing damage multiple times, is pretty good too. The first special, deal physical damage to target enemy and the weakest enemy. Target enemy and the weakness enemy. This ability has additional effects based on the number of stacks momentum. All bounty hunters, scoundrel allies gain tenacity up for 2 turns. If he has 9 stacks, gain tenacity up for 3 turns. And then gain 1 stack of momentum for 3 turns. And if the target enemy is inflicted with armor shred, additional stacks of momentum. He's just not really geared towards anything else bounty hunters are doing. It's mostly the momentum thing, right? Did I already count that? Okay, both of his abilities do something with momentum. Deal physical damage to all enemies. Deal and inflict 2 damage of time over effects. This ability has a number of effects based on the number of stacks. 25% more damage, 25% more damage, tenacity down, potency down, tenacity down, potency down, breach. This is mostly he's doing his own thing type thing still. Looking at his unique, 50% offense. Start of the encounter, he gains bounty hunter's resolve until he's defeated. Momentum. Whenever he scores a critical hit, he gains a stack of momentum. Use the same social ability 3 turns in a row. That ability becomes blocked for 1 turn. Okay, that I haven't read this character. I haven't Relic 9 for platoons. Okay, don't at me. Whenever Boba Fett receives rewards from a contract, gets his whole thing. or when the leader is another non-bounty hunter scoundrel ally, he also gains the following payout. Interesting, I didn't know that. Gains 30% critical avoidance and defense penetration. All memento gains from his abilities are doubled for the rest of the battle. No, he's not an option really, except unless you have Mint R9, he's just gonna do a lot of damage, hopefully. And then Jango Fett would be our last option. Deal physical damage target enemy, 50% chance offense for each enemy suffering a debuff during this attack. If the target enemy was suffering a debuff, Jango attacks again. There's an attack again right there. Inflict healing immunity and stagger. Not really synergistic. Burning for 3 turns, can't be evaded. Lose max health if they were suffering a debuff. Lose 10% tenacity if they were suffering a debuff. Not crazy. And he's also a separatist more than anything. He works really well with them. Jango Fett has 100% defense penetration, 50% max health. Enemies defeated can't be revived. Whenever an enemy's defeated, 100% protection and bounty hunters resolve. Okay. Nope. And then did I already cover that? Jango Fett gains damage immunity for 2 turns, which can't be dispelled, and 50% offense. Okay, so yeah, not really a lot of synergy other than that he's a strong character. Right, let's go ahead and look at Bosk. I already kind of explained that he would be a prime candidate, but dealing physical damage to target enemy. If the target's weakest enemy, this attack deals double damage and is guaranteed to critically hit. Deal physical damage to target enemy and stun them. Okay, we're back to the whole stun. If they're stunned, then they get vulnerability for the whole team. Call all other bounty hunter allies to assist. We definitely want that. 4 LOM is going to go ahead and assist, and then Dengar say is going to assist and call another person to assist. And then remember for the unique on 4 LOM, if there are no galactic legends, whenever another bounty hunter ally attacks that turn, 4 LOM assists. Right, so just a lot of assists. That's why I think Bosk is a shoo-in, right? That with the stun, right? If the target is the weakest enemy, reduce all assisting bounty hunter allies cooldown by 1. Well, we want to reduce cooldowns on 4 LOM by 1, reduce cooldowns on Cad Bane by 1. We get more stuns, right? The special Predator in dispels all debuffs on himself, recovers 50% health, gains frenzy, takes more turns, taunt for 3 turns. And then he's also an avenue of getting all bounty hunters allies offense up for 2 turns. So that works in favor quite a bit. Trandoshan Rage, 50% defense, 50% max health while he has taunt, and gains 50% health and 50% offense while attacking buffed enemies rather. When Bosk loses taunt, he gains taunt for 1 turn with the weakest enemy. This is basically it's just tanking ability, right? This is what allows Bosk to kind of be a wall. And we'll look at the unique. Recovers 5% health and protection at the start of his turn, and half that much whenever another bounty hunter ally starts their turn. So with all of them looping turns and getting all that turn meter, that's going to help heal Bosk back up. I think he's a shoo-in. You just need a tank too. So for those reasons, that's who I think it is. Oh, we forgot about Fennec Shand. Fennec Shand doesn't super have a team real quick. We'll take a look. Deal special damage to target enemy 5 times. If the target enemy has no protection, this ability deals 50% more. She gains seasoned veteran. Not too big of a deal. Deal special damage to all but the weakest enemy, then deal special damage to the enemy that was weakest at the start of the attack. Not entirely a ton of synergy, except the dealing damage to everybody. When we have corrupted translation, that's what we want to happen, so we get that 4 LOM payout quicker. Inflicts armor shred if the ability deals damage. Overconfident. Darkside scoundrel allies gain overconfident, which can't be copied. This is just super complex kit that doesn't really have anything to do with what we're doing. Yep. Okay. So looking at the unique, gains tenacity up, gains this is more lone wolf stuff. This is why she's not typically on teams. And then if Boba Fett, Scion, Jango is there, this is doubled with, and she starts the battle. Okay. So again, it's mostly her and Boba. So not really a good option. So our prime candidates, after looking at all the bounty hunters, Bosk, IG-88, Dengar, and Cad Bane. I know people want Boba, but he's not providing a whole lot in that situation. So that's where I'm really looking at. And it could be, again, a switch off thing. constantly going back and forth depending on the team. But I think Bosk is a shoo-in, and then we got 2 more slots after Zuckuss. IG-88, Dengar, Cad Bane. Cad Bane has a lot of synergy, but he is admittedly the weakest of the 3 tunes. So take that for what you will. We might have enough stuns between Zuckuss, Bosk, and Dengar that we don't need Cad Bane stuns. So that's something to consider too. But if I had to put my money on it right now, I'd say Bosk, Dengar, IG-88. But I think there's a world where it's Bosk, Dengar, and Cad Bane. Anyways, that's all I got, folks. I'm looking forward to 4-LOM actually now, kind of seeing the kit to make this team. It's kind of just like 4-LOM and Zuckuss, really? That's what we're doing? But I'm warming up to it, especially with the kit reveal. I think it's going to be interesting play, and I think it's going to allow us to do some more things, especially these. I'd like to see Bosk and all the other bounty hunters with these 2 jump up a tier to maybe rather than just garbage cleanup sometimes, or those really weird teams that are sticky and you want to go ahead and use Mando to obliterate somebody. I'd like to see them jump up to A, maybe B tier, hopefully. Maybe in that, if we're lucky, Balin range, Great Mother's range, QA range a little bit. That might be optimistic, but I'd like to see it nonetheless. And then we still get all the juiciness that Zuckuss is going to bring, whatever that is. So I'm looking forward to it. I know this was a long one. This is how our review kids. So yeah, if you got useful to this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want more content like this, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you know when it all goes live. With that, you all have a good rest of your day. Bye.